5-time Super Bowl champion, has made an abundance of money, has benefited incredibly from the sport. For Tom Brady to come out and to say it's none of anybody's business, that's ill-advised, that's immature as far as I'm concerned, it's irresponsible.
That was Stephen A. Smith yesterday, is that right?
2 days ago.
2 days ago, I apologize. 2 days ago. Oh, right, today's Wednesday. Yeah, okay. We haven't talked to Stephen A. I don't think since Super Bowl he joined us in Houston for that. He joins us right now on the AT&T hotline. Stephen A., how are you this morning?
Good morning, fellas. How you guys doing?
Not too bad. What's immature sticks out to me? What's immature about that?
Well, I just think that, I put that word out there because, obviously you're the face of the National Football League, and it's about being responsible for more than just yourself and accepting that responsibility. When you're the face of the league, when we have the concussion issues that have obviously been discussed ad nauseum, when you've got the potential for billion-dollar lawsuits out there, when league changes have been implemented to elevate the safety of the game, or at least through the eyes of the National Football League, that's the impression that they're trying to give. Clearly, this is not a situation as simple as, okay, yeah, I might have had a concussion or whatever the case may be, but it's none of anybody's business. When it comes to what transpires on the football field, that's a very public forum.
I mean, I guess my question is, I've been saying this for the last couple of days, when Brady's asked that question, what's the ideal answer? I mean, what realistically is he supposed to say in that environment?
Well, I think that what he could sit up there and say is that there are things that have happened in the past. There's no question about it, but I'm fine. I'm moving forward. I love this game, et cetera, as opposed to saying that it's nobody's business, because obviously it is people's business when you're talking about the concussion issue itself. And it may be the people's business as it pertains more to the New England Patriots, because he wasn't even enlisted on an injury report, and maybe it's him trying to cover for them, because since he was never listed on the injured report, if indeed his wife is telling the truth, and I don't think any of us denies that she is, and he has suffered through some of those things, and the NFL and the public at large had never been informed, then that's a problem according to the NFL itself. So in that regard, it's something that simply cannot be ignored. It's a very, very serious issue, and I think my colleague Bob Lee highlighted that on his show on Sunday very accurately, to be quite honest with you.
Stephen, is it fair, though, to hold Tom Brady to a higher standard than, say, an Aaron Rodgers or an Andrew Luck or a Russell Wilson or any other quarterback or player in the league?
Or a lousy quarterback.
Or a Brock Osweiler or a Tom Savage. I know he is the biggest name. I know he's the biggest name.
You did not just ask me. Hold on, give me a second. You did not just ask me a question about Tom Brady and put Tom Savage in the same sentence. You didn't just do that.
Well, I wanted to make sure we got all the crappy quarterbacks in there as well. I don't want to make it just about the good
if Tom
ones.
Savage has had 4 concussions, should he tell people about it or no?
Well, what I'm saying to you is this. Of course, I think he should, but if he doesn't, he doesn't. We all understand that in the day and age that we're living in, particularly when you're the face of a league, there's a heightened level of responsibility that you have that, say, lesser individuals may not. I don't think that that's something that's misunderstood in any profession. I mean, I'm going to be held to a certain standard. You guys are going to be held to a certain standard, along with many, many others. If you're the face of an organization, if you're the face of a franchise, if you're the face of the league in this particular case, because you're Tom Brady, because you're the guy that's out there with the endorsement deals, you play for the creme de la creme, as far as I'm concerned, the true America's team, that is the New England Patriots. You're the 5-time Super Bowl champion. There are so many things that you've benefited from participating in the National Football League when you consider the bigger issues that resonate through our society emanating from the sport of football. You do have a heightened level of responsibility, in my opinion, when you're that face. I think that LeBron James has a greater responsibility than the average NBA
player. I think that's where we ultimately just disagree. I think when it comes to this, I'm in that Barkley camp from 25 years ago. I feel like it's really up to mom and dad. If you need Tom Brady to tell you at this point in society that concussions are bad, you've got bigger issues than that. I mean, I think by now we know the score.
Well, you can say that, and you're entitled to your opinion. And as you well know from having me on your program before, we are more than entitled to disagree.
Sure, but I mean, that must make some measure of sense. I mean, if you have kids, I'm pretty sure you're going to tell these kids, hey, there's a chance you're going to get concussions if you play football, and that's we don't need Tom Brady, who has no medical history, to tell you that.
But see, but that's tricky, because it's not a matter of need. Of course, you may not need it. But at the same time, there's nothing wrong with debating whether or not it's the right thing to do.
Sure. No, I agree.
And so what I'm saying, I'm not trying to say that Tom Brady needs to do anything.
Well, you said it's his responsibility, you said.
If you're the face of the league, you, in my opinion, you do have a heightened level of responsibility to toe the line on certain issues, to make sure that you contribute to having a positive impact as it pertains to certain issues. Now, if his personal life, that's different. That is none of our business. I totally agree with that. I don't want to know about Giselle or anybody else with his family, the situation with his mother last year. He doesn't want to talk about it. My God, Lord knows that I can relate since I just recently lost my mother to cancer. I totally get that. It's none of anybody's business. But we're talking football here and what happened on the football field, and that is our business. And that is not just his business, and it's not for him to say it's none of anybody's business, and it's certainly not for the New England Patriots to indicate that that would be the right thing to do. That's all I'm saying.
Stephen, speaking of businesses, where do you factor in Brady's? In he wants to be a lifestyle guru and sell books and self-help and all that kind of stuff. How does that factor into all this in your mind?
I think that contributes to it as well, because you've got a lifestyle book. Are you looking to just profit off of it and just be about that? No. What you're trying to do is make a contribution. You live a relatively healthy lifestyle. It's been promoted ad nauseum, at least in recent memory. We all understand that. You're worthy of it. TB12, I mean, he is who he is. He's a 5-time champion, the greatest quarterback of the modern day era. We get all of that. And now you're writing books and you're talking to people about health, but in the same breath you're going to say that it's none of anybody's business when it comes to the concussion issues. That doesn't seem to be consistent with the kind of message that Tom Brady has been trying to send out in terms of his health and how important it is to take care of one's health and some of the tips that he could provide in order to facilitating better health. That doesn't seem to be consistent with him telling you it's none of anybody's business because you're turning around and asking him about concussions.
Well, I would say, speaking of consistent, you're talking about how he needs to be mature, needs to be responsible. I'm looking at you right now on
ESPN. As it pertains to that.
Sure. I'm looking at you right now in ESPN talking to Floyd Mayweather. You and I have talked about this before. I have an issue with it, and I know that you're, as a son and as a husband and all these things. Watching you sit down and sort of slap and tickle it with Floyd Mayweather, for me, knowing you and knowing the stuff, it's an issue. I mean, this is a guy with a really serious history of beating women, and it seems like you're endorsing it and you're okay with that. When
That's
I see
not fair.
Well,
hold on.
When I see you going into his cars and joking around with him on ESPN, do you ever ask him about it on the air?
Yes, I have.
Okay,
go
ahead.
That's why I resent that question.
Go ahead. Okay.
I interviewed him when he first got out of prison. Okay. I interviewed him when he first got out of prison. I threw one accusation after another in his face. He categorically denied it. As you well know, when you're interviewing people about legal issues, all of a sudden their lawyers are around and everything else. There's certain things they cannot touch on. There's certain things that they refuse to touch on in terms of the specifics. What are you supposed to do? Continue to berate over him year after year after year?
Well, I would say, but I would say when I saw the thing a year or two ago before the Pacquiao fight, when we were going around his house, and I see the thing today. Well, hold on. You talk. It strikes to me is it seems like this is a guy you really like. I'll ask you this: Do you think he was guilty of these things? Do you think he beats women or has beaten women in the past?
I personally told him to his face that I thought he was guilty about what he said he was innocent of. He said.
So how can you stomach talking to this creep then? And you're lecturing Tom Brady on concussions?
Listen, that is unfair. You asked me to come on this show and be a guest on your show, and then you're going to ask me how can I stomach doing my job? The fact of the matter is,
doing your job is going in his cars and like talking about his clothes.
My man, this is a waste of my time, and I'm going to tell you why.
Go ahead.
That was years removed from the Pacquiao fight. I interviewed him when he got out of jail. I called him to the carpet. A matter of fact, on several occasions, not just on the air, but off the air, I told him to his face that I thought that he was guilty of it, but I don't have all the details. So all you can go by is what the courts say. Ultimately, him spending 3 months in jail. If you want to put it that way, why are we not talking about a legal system that only had him in jail for 3 months?
I agree with you, 1,000%.
Opposed to several years.
1,000%.
So what I'm saying to you is that there's always details that we don't know. That's number one. Number two. Pacquiao Mayweather was the biggest fight years later, was the biggest fight of not just a decade, but beyond.
Sure.
All the stuff he's been interviewed by various.
Oh, I'm not denying the size and scale of the
Wait
fight.
a minute,
but,
don't interrupt. I answered you. I'm answering your question. You can't just accuse me of something.
I'm not Stephen A. You went in the guy's house. It was an infomercial for the guy. I mean, it was. You know that.
What I'm saying to you is that if you don't like the interview, that's fine. But
Okay.
don't sit up there and talk about I'm coming across as I'm condoning something like that. I was raised by 5 women. I would never condone.
It comes across like you are pro May. I mean, it just does. I mean, I'm just telling you. That's how it comes across to my eyes.
It comes across like I am a man who covers sports and
this was different.
A boxer.
No, this was different.
About boxing.
No, you're talking about this car. We could play the sound if you want. You talked about his
About
cars.
boxing.
I mean, you know that. You talked about his cars and how great his house is.
ESPN, ABC.
You know that.
And
Stop. You're dodging it. You know that.
I don't know
You're
that.
much better than that.
I don't know that. I am much better than that.
I agree.
Which is why you asked me to be a guest on the show.
No question. We like having you on. I mean,
you're asking, but you're coming at me like I'm condoning domestic violence, which I would never do.
Well, when you sit there and do a slap a ticket with Floyd Mayweather and you don't bring it up, I mean,
a boxing match that everybody is.
Do you want us to play the sound of the going around in his cars? We have sound of it.
So that's what it is. And by the way, that interview took place like 3 years later. I'm here on your morning show 3 years later, and that's what you do?
Well, you're talking about Tom Brady being irresponsible. While you're saying that to me, I'm looking at you joking around with Floyd Mayweather on TV. I mean, that to me is a little inconsistent. That's a little inconsistent. Then you talk about inconsistencies.
I'm talking about Tom Brady being irresponsible about the concussion.
Okay, and we talked about that. And then you're on TV right now talking to Mayweather. We can't talk about that?
Irresponsible. That's what, because I used the word irresponsible about a concussion.
And then you said inconsistent.
That's where you go?
So, yeah, well, yes, it's inconsistent.
That's where you go?
Well, inconsistent.
About a concussion issue?
Then you talked about inconsistencies, and you're sitting there lecturing Brady. I'm looking at you with Floyd Mayweather. That, to me, is about as big an inconsistency as you could get. You know that.
That's to you.
Right. Well, obviously it's to me. I'm the one talking to you, clearly.
That's to you, and that's fine. That's to you, and that's fine, and you're entitled to your opinion.
Right, okay.
I'm entitled to disagree.
Absolutely, of course. We do it all the time.
I disagree emphatically, and I think it's very, very irresponsible
to
sit up there and come across
Don't play a moral high ground on me. You don't play the moral. You're better than that. Don't play the moral high ground on me. We can play the Mayweather sound if you want. You're joking around. You're driving the guy's cars, and you're joking around with them.
To interview them on a morning show about Tom Brady and a concussion.
Oh, don't act like you got set up. Come on. Stephen A. Smith is going to play this game with me like you got set up?
Are you playing the game?
What game?
You're playing the game.
What game?
That's what you're doing.
Did you talk to Mayweather today? I'm looking at it on ESPN right now. Is it not relevant?
About an upcoming fight.
Right, so?
That he has with Conor McGregor.
Right.
Okay, so that's my point.
What's your
point? You bring up something from 10 years ago?
Well, he beat women, Stephen A. He beat them. Did you with Josh Brown? Did you go crazy about Josh Brown on your show? Did you go crazy about Greg Hardy? I mean, which is it?
Greg, what are you talking about?
Well, guys who beat up their girl. When the Josh Brown thing happened last year on your show.
Josh Brown. Oh, so I'm glad you brought up Josh Brown.
Go.
Okay, so what? You know, he should be out of the league. Greg Hardy should be out of the league. They all should be. Anybody that puts their hands on a woman needs to be dealt with in a very forceful and negative fashion.
So you'd be fine if boxing said, you know what, Mayweather never fights again.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. That's a good thing. Okay. Just wanted to know that. All right. Excellent. Good enough. We'll talk to you down the line, I'm sure. We always like having you on.
Goodbye.
Or not. I don't know. I mean, that went well, I thought. No?
That was you know what that was? That was just like that was
radio.
That was the 1 o'clock segment on Trenny and Tomasi.
Yeah.
Poor Max Kellerman's like, geez, maybe they should have brought him in. Me and Stephen A. We had some fun together. I don't know. Was I wrong?
That's how we talked to Kevin O'Connor.
I have no idea.
That was good. I don't think he'll be back on. But
it was good radio.
Sure he will. You don't think he'll come back on?
Yeah, Stephen A. I think Stephen A.
Listen,
so the guy interviews Floyd Mayweather. Like he said, he's done the whole...
Right.
He did the interview with him when he got out of jail. He's 60 days in jail, all that stuff. So what do you want? You want him to, every story has to be about that?
No.
You don't want him talking to him at all?
I don't want it to be like they're best friends. That's what I don't want.
Does that prevent Stephen A. from ever having an opinion on anybody else and thinking there's a higher
or
level
even
of
an opinion on Floyd
responsibility for
Mayweather?
someone?
But if you're a wife-beating creep, you can't go on there and talk about what a wonderful guy is. It creeps me out. That's all. And then act all like moral and high and mighty when Tom Brady talks about concussions. To me, it's an inconsistency.
I don't think it was exactly related. Yeah.
Do you
I don't think the two are directly
Stephen A. with the
related.
cars with Floyd Mayweather?
So is this from 3 years ago or from today?
The Matt Pacquiao fight.
This is a beautiful house, my man.
How many square feet is this?
A little bit over 20,000 square feet. 3 or 4 levels.
Money Mayweather. Talk to me about why you make the decision to drive different colored cars.
Okay, now that
in
to me is not
respective cities.
a talk about the fight. I could be wrong. He said he talked to Pacquiao about the fight. Is that an interview about the fight?
I mean,
Listen,
that's an excerpt.
Does that sound like an interview of the fight?
That is an excerpt from an interview that
No,
is not fight
They went to his
related.
house.
Sure.
Though. It was 20 minutes. It was a promo for the fight. And my thing is, if ESPN's going to act all high and mighty with Josh Brown and all these other guys, and then sit there and promote Pacquiao and Mayweather and McGregor the whole time, is that inconsistent? Just turning your network over to a wife beater. Is that consistent or no? When you act all moral on your other shows about it, is that inconsistent or no?
I would say that. I mean, I think that sports is full of inconsistencies and hypocrisies. I mean, think of how often.
That's not what I'm asking.
Think of how often we sit on these shows and we talk about concussions and we talk about the long-term damage of football that football can have, and then we go and we play the games on our air and we do interviews with players.
I don't even know what the hell
You don't think Stephen A has a right to feel ambushed right there?
No,
why?
Absolutely not.
Well, I mean, you call him to come on to talk about Brady, which he does, and all of a sudden he's answering for 2 and 3 year old interviews about.
I said he's
Floyd Mayweather.
I said you're sitting there today talking to Mayweather as we're speaking. That interview was taped yesterday. He's talking about it right now, and he's sitting there joking around with Mayweather.
He should have been ready for that. He should have expected that. How does
I mean,
Floyd
what are you,
Mayweather
Evan
relate
Relic?
to?
I mean, you feel bad for Stephen A. Smith at this point.
No, but what I'm
he was
saying
asked some
is-
questions he didn't want to hear in an interview on the radio.
No, what I'm saying is
give
how
me a
does
friggin'
Floyd
break.
Mayweather relate to Tom Brady at all?
No way. So
let
what?
me let me
So what?
let
He's
me ask
Stephen A.
you this.
Smith.
Let's say for argument's
Do
sake,
you think Stephen A. Smith really needs to be like preppy? He's a pretty smart guy and a damn good talent. You think he needs to be walked through?
The connection there is a little tenuous to me.
Hold on,
So
let me make
he's
a quick-
talking about inconsistencies. I think ESPN is inconsistent with their coverage of people who beat women. I think that's pretty. He used the word inconsistent. I didn't. That's good enough for me.
Would you be upset if
Beat the way the interview was going for the
if
first
a
5
New
minutes.
York or an LA radio station called to do an interview with you about
And brought up Aaron Andrews?
And brought up Aaron
I wouldn't
Andrews.
care at all.
Okay.
I talk about it all the time on the air. I don't care.
But if you thought you were going on to do something else, and you're probably right, you probably wouldn't.
You
care,
think I would?
but-
You think I would care if they did that? That's,
No, God, no.
That was
God, no.
stupid. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, next. I mean, what? You know why he got so defensive? Because he knows he's wrong about it. He knows he's made some deal. ESPN makes a lot of money off this promotion for the McGregor fight. Mayweather beats women. If some guy got arrested today in the NFL for beating up his girlfriend, they would do 4 hours of these shows screaming how wrong it is in between commercials for that fight, and then go to Stephen A. interviewing Mayweather. That would happen. Is that consistent or no?
No.
And his
I have
past
a
would be
huge
a part of the
problem with their
coverage.
coverage.
What's that?
His past would be a part of the coverage. If this were an NFL player or a basketball
course it
player,
would.
it would be a big part of it coming into the
it
game.
would. Of course it would.
Oh, I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm disgusted by the way that ESPN handles these fights and the way they do look the other way. Do I entirely think that if I was Stephen A. Smith, I would have been expecting to be asked about that?
I
when
mean,
talking about
I would
this?
say
no.
I'd say too
but
bad. I mean, we have Stephen A. on all the time.
I don't think.
And
I don't think
I will
he'll
say
ever.
this.
I think he'll still come.
Of course he will. When we have Stephen A. on, is it ever like one topic?
It's always multiple
No, it's
things.
pretty wide
No,
ranging.
but my thing
But this
is
is a-
the
you're drawing a
relation.
direct
The
correlation
relation
between the
between
two.
Mayweather and Brady. I'm not seeing that connection. Like
I'm not sure
you
there is-
said,
much-
you said
much sure
Brady.
there is one.
Okay, well this is how you
But
were
that's how you
portraying
framed it.
Yeah.
You framed it as if you say this, if you do these interviews with Floyd Mayweather, then you
I didn't
can't
say,
say.
I didn't say
then
you can't weigh in on Brady. Then I just said if you want to talk about
said
inconsistencies,
it sounds
You said
inconsistent and
inconsistent.
sounds
I said
hypocritical.
here's another inconsistency. I used that word as a bridge. Pay attention, learn.
I'm
maybe
learning.
you'll make a living doing this. If you
We're
do.
going to save that for Kevin O'Connor.
All right, 617. Was that too polarizing? I don't want to upset anybody.
I guess I've chosen to hold my nose and cover the fight and
Another
watch
person
the fight.
who endorses beating of women, Michael Felger. I mean, that's just true. I think he's pro. I'm not kidding. He went and did that fight. They'll probably do it again. I can come to no other conclusion other than they promote and are okay with domestic violence. 617-779-7937. I see your reaction to the interview. It
Everybody
seems like
loves Kirk. We should just get a shirt that says
Well,
everybody
there's no.
loves Kirk.
I mean, the calls aren't allowed if they disagree with that. I mean,
There was one that seemed to disagree with you, and it disappeared.
disappeared.
You see how that worked?
It's like the Russian mafia
Like Wade
in
Boggs.
here.
I can
Oh,
build
there's
up.
it's
one.
back.
Whoa.
We'll see if Lou-
I'm
if
going to
Lou
bang on
hangs
that.
on.
Jeez, all right, we'll be right back.
It's the 16th annual WEEI Ness and Jim.